It wasn't an accident. It was pure calculation. This is the story of the most dangerous car in history, the infamous and notorious Ford Pinto.
Of all the automobiles that have ever rolled off an assembly line, few names evoke a sense of danger, corporate greed, and tragic failure as powerfully as the Ford Pinto. It was not merely a flawed car, it became a cultural and legal landmark, a permanent cautionary tale about what happens when profit is deliberately prioritized over human life. This is the story of the Ford Pinto, the subcompact that became a firebomb. The year was 1970. The American auto industry, long dominant with its bigger is better philosophy, was caught flat-footed. A new wave of fuel-efficient, inexpensive imports, primarily from Germany, Volkswagen Beetle, and Japan, Toyota Corolla, Datsun 510, began capturing the hearts and wallets of American consumers. Lee Iacocca, then a dynamic executive at Ford, was determined to fight back. He conceived the Pinto not just as a new model, but as a corporate crusade. His mandate was uncompromising and legendary. The 2000 rule. The car could not weigh an ounce over 2,000 pounds. The 2000 rule. Part 2. The car could not cost a cent more than $2,000. The 25-month timeline. It had to be in production in just 25 months, shaving nearly a full year off the typical development cycle for a new car. This rush job would become the Pinto's original sin. Under normal circumstances, engineers would design the car and then style it. For the Pinto, the styling was completed first, and engineers were forced to work within its tight, unyielding parameters. The most critical engineering compromise occurred at the very rear of the car. To maximize trunk space and simplify manufacturing, the Pinto's fuel tank was placed behind the rear axle, nestled between the axle housing and the rear bumper. This location was perilously vulnerable. The specific dangers were insufficient rear overhang. The gas tank was only 9–10 inches from the rear bumper, leaving little crush space. Protruding bolts. The differential housing, the bulky center section of the rear axle, lined with sharp, protruding bolts, was positioned directly in front of the tank. In a collision, the tank would be jammed into these bolts. Weak fuel filler neck, the pipe connecting the gas cap to the tank, was easily torn in an impact, providing a ready path for spilled fuel. The result was a terrifyingly simple failure sequence, a moderate-speed rear-end collision. The tank is crushed and punctured by the differential bolts. The filler neck ruptures. Gasoline spills out. Sparks ignite the fuel. A catastrophic fire or explosion. Ford's own crash tests, conducted during development, confirmed this horrifying outcome. In tests at speeds as low as 21 mpm, the Pinto's fuel tank routinely ruptured. The most damning element of the Pinto story is not that Ford knew about the problem, but what they chose to do about it. Engineers proposed a series of simple, relatively inexpensive fixes. A bladder inside the gas tank to prevent rupture. A protective shield to cover the differential bolts. A thicker tank and a stronger filler neck. The cost of these improvements was estimated to be $11 per car. At this point, Ford management made a cold, calculated decision. They used a formal risk analysis, a common business tool, but applied it in a chillingly human context. They drafted a now infamous memo titled Fatalities Associated with Crash-Induced Fuel Leakage and Fires. This document assigned a monetary value to human life and suffering. Value of a human life, $200,000 cost for a burn injury, $67,000. Average cost per car, $11 per vehicle, x 12.5 million cars and trucks, $137 million total cost. Estimated benefits, 180 burn deaths, 180 serious burn injuries, 2,100 burned vehicles. Total benefit, 180 deaths, 200,000, plus 180 injuries, 67,000, plus 2,100 vehicles, 700, 49.5 million. The conclusion was stark. Spending $137 million to save $49.5 million was not cost-effective. Therefore, Ford decided not to implement the fixes. The Pinto went on sale for the 1971 model year and was initially a commercial success. But the grim reality of the design flaw soon began to reveal itself in the most tragic way possible. Grimshaw versus Ford Motor Company, 1978, became the landmark lawsuit. 13-year-old Richard Grimshaw was traveling in a 1972 Pinto when it was rear-ended. The car burst into flames. Richard suffered horrific burns over 90% of his body and underwent countless painful surgeries. The jury was presented with Ford's internal memos and crash test results. They were so outraged by the company's conduct that they awarded a then-record $125 million in punitive damages, later reduced to $3.5 million, sending a powerful message to corporate America. The Mother Jones article. In 1977, investigative journalist Mark Dowie published a bombshell article titled Pinto Madness in Mother Jones magazine. It laid out the entire case, the rushed timeline, the failed tests, and the infamous cost-benefit analysis for the public to see. The article won a National Magazine Award and turned the Pinto from a problematic car into a national scandal. Government intervention. The public outcry forced the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, to investigate. In 1978, after initial resistance, Ford agreed to recall 1.5 million Pintos. The recall fix was ironically almost identical to the $11 solution proposed years earlier. The Ford Pinto was discontinued in 1980, its reputation in tatters. Its legacy, however, is profound and multifaceted. The Pinto cases revolutionized product liability law. They established that a manufacturer could be held liable for punitive damages, not just for a design flaw, but for conscious, reckless disregard for human life in its decision-making process, known as malice, in fact. The Pinto became the textbook case study in business ethics courses worldwide. It is a permanent reminder of the moral and human consequences of putting balance sheets ahead of safety. The scandal directly led to stronger federal safety standards, particularly for fuel system integrity. It forced the entire auto industry to reevaluate its safety culture and accountability. The name Pinto transcended the auto industry. It entered the popular lexicon as a synonym for a deadly product and corporate irresponsibility. The Ford Pinto was not the only unsafe car of its era. Many contemporary vehicles lacked the safety features standard today. What sets the Pinto apart is the premeditation. It was the deliberate, documented, and calculated choice to value $11 over a human life that sealed its fate in history. The Pinto is a grim monument to a catastrophic failure of corporate conscience. It serves as an enduring lesson that while cost-benefit analyses have their place in business, there are some costs, especially the human one, that can never and should never be calculated.